I need to walk with me on this journey. Yes, hold me accountable, 'cause sometimes I need to know the truth. Sister, I love you. We're one in the same, 'cause we're sharing the pain of the world as we know it to be. Sister, I need you to walk with me on this journey. Yes, hold me accountable, 'cause sometimes I need to know the truth. Sister, I love you.
Welcome to the Woman to Woman show, where we believe truth plus transparency equals healing. Welcome tonight. I am your host, Trey Kearney, along with my wonderful co-host, Theodora Carter, Regina Norman, Sheila Isom, Monetta Fields, Regina Booker, and Shayla Williams. Welcome, ladies. How y'all doing?
Doing good.
Wow, great to see you.
Wonderful,
Wonderful.
Hi. Okay, so
Oh my God, it's a full house.
yes, we love it, don't we? So welcome again to the Woman to Woman show. If you are tuned in, please share, comment, follow, friend, and like each of us on social media. Tell us any topics you would like us to talk about, and we'd be more than happy to share those with you. So we're just going to go around the room and give a moment of gratitude, just to level set and give people an opportunity to come in before we get into our topic for the night, which is toxicity, how to deal with toxic relationships. So let's go around the room. We'll start with you, Netta, because I can see you first. I'm not going in any particular order, just the way that I see y'all. And just what are you grateful for so far this week?
I am grateful that my mom is on the road to recovery after having had surgery. It was seamless. God blessed every single step of the way. So for that, I am grateful.
Miss Shayla.
Good evening, everyone. Well, I am grateful that my family members, that my brother, his wife, and my nephew that were traveling, that they all returned home safely and we're able to see them. And, I'll catch up with them later. But yeah, I'm grateful for my family.
Miss Regina Booker.
I am grateful for healing in my body. God healed that body because I had that nasty thing, and I'm over it. So I am healing.
Yes, God. We are so thankful that you are back with us tonight, that you are feeling so much better. You look wonderful. You look rested and relaxed and refreshed, and we're glad you're here. Let's take it over to Miss Theodora Carter.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I am grateful for life. I'm grateful that I woke up this morning. I am grateful for you ladies. I am grateful for this platform. I am grateful for the air I breathe. I'm just grateful for everything. Just grateful.
Hallelujah. Theo done came in like the pastor. I ain't playing with you tonight, Theo. Don't start already now looking all cute. I see you. You went somewhere and did some. We gonna come back to you. Come on, Gina.
I'm grateful for obedience and doing things in God's time. And I'm grateful for being on time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what I'm grateful for this evening.
Yes, ma'am. Come on, Miss Sheila.
Good evening. I am grateful for redemption.
Yes.
For second chances, for third chances, for fourth chances. Just the fact that the blessings and the knowledge and the grace and mercy still keeps coming.
I'm about to start running up in here, shouting and praising.
Y'all about to have us throwing shoes and hankies and all kinds of stuff. I am grateful that I have Netta in my life to guide me when it comes to different medical things, just things when I'm dealing with Jermaine. I'm really grateful and thankful that I can call her when I go to the neurologist, when I take him to the doctor, when he's having issues, that I can find a natural support system to help me on this journey with him. So I'm just really, really grateful for that I got to talk to her yesterday and just let her know what was going on. And she's knowledged in that area for 25 years. And she just was able to just talk to me, navigate, and just keep me calm. So And I'm thankful for each and every one of these beauty flies who come here and give their time, their effort, their energy, their motivation, just to come here on Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is a privilege for me to be in you ladies' lives. And I love y'all. And I'm just glad to be here with y'all every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you are on Facebook or YouTube, please put in the chat what you are grateful for so that we can celebrate along with you. So now we're going to get into our topic, which is toxicity. And the reason why I wanted to do this because I got quite a few over the weekend, quite a few toxic relationship issues with people. And then people had inboxed me all the stuff about Kanye West and Kim Kardashian, how they were dealing and navigating through their daughter's birthday party because they're separated. He bought a house across the street. So I just wanted us to pour into the people about how to deal with toxic relationships. And I want anybody to jump in first. We'll talk about have you come and encountered, and I know we all have, but is there one circumstance that stands out to you where you had to deal with a toxic person or a toxic situation, whether it was work, personal, or anything? Anybody want to jump in?
I'll jump in.
Okay. Come on, Jamie.
So I think for me it was work because I didn't realize that it was really a toxic relationship. On the surface, it seemed cordial, even friendly. But as time progressed, I started seeing the toxic patterns, which something would happen that was a negative. I was made to feel a certain way or put in a certain position. Then a cycle came of maybe a cooling down period, but it happened consistently. It wasn't professionally healthy. It didn't inspire creativity, the ability to be more of a value add. It was more of a drain. But because I was so caught up in what I was doing and I enjoyed it, I didn't realize the level of the level of toxic environment I was in until I wasn't there.
Wow. I love that. She said it was a drain. Anybody else want to jump in on a situation that they've had or an area of toxicity been involved in?
I would say it's funny because when I saw this topic, I was like, I don't know if I have much to contribute to this, right? And then I started thinking about, I think most of it was probably when I was in my younger years, right? Like in my late teens, early 20s, where, there was just this one girl in the group that just always was stirring up trouble. Like she was always the trouble starter. But I think I've always been able to deal with toxic relationships because even when I didn't know it, I was setting boundaries, right? So for me, I've never been the you said, I said, she said type of chick. So when issues would come up and somebody would say, so-and-so said, you said so-and-so, I would say, hold on, let me call so-and-so and let's all meet in the Oval. If anybody know Parkchester, you know the Oval. Let's all meet in the Oval and we can talk about who said what, right? And so what would happen? Nobody else would be in the Oval, right? Because then you would know that it was really just mess. So I would honestly say, I think it was more so as a younger person and without me even realizing it, I think I was learning how to set boundaries so that when I got older, I think I didn't deal with it as much because I was really clear and able to identify when this isn't really about you, it's really about this person.
I love that.
And so you just need to remove yourself from the situation. And sometimes I'm not going to cut you out of my life, but I'm going to love you from afar.
Come on now. Netta, were you going to say something?
I was thinking of my first job to begin my career after having relocated. The environment I didn't know I was walking into was toxic. I'm the new person in the department, and it was all older women. And they were intimidated by my presence, by being the youngest person coming in with the fresh ideas. And so sabotage, like high level undermining that I was clueless about. And I'm grateful for that, actually. because I didn't play into it. Eventually, it died down, and I was able to gain their trust and just show what I was capable of without entertaining the foolishness, because that's what it was.
Mm.
Wow.
But I think that's something that we really need to pinpoint and talk about, and we probably can come back to it. But right, a lot of times, unfortunately, in a workplace, it's people that look like us,
Okay, come on, Theo.
right?
Come through, sis.
that
That's all true.
that will start the mess, right? It's
Right.
you in the workplace. You're competing with someone that you don't even know what you're competing with, because they decided when you walked in the room that they don't like you just from the way you look, right? It's all of that. So I think a lot of the toxicity does happen in the workplace, unfortunately. And unfortunately, as Black women, right, I'm glad we have been able to dispel the myth that we cannot get along, because we have proven that we can work together and collaborate. But in the workplace, a lot of times you're going up against somebody that looks just like you when you should be working with them, but for some reason they've decided they got a problem with you.
Right.
And I think the good thing about us here, and then I'm gonna go to Shayla. I think the good thing about us here is that we've all done some level of work on ourselves. I think that we're aware of who we are. I think we're aware of our gifts and our talents. And I think that we keep striving to learn more about ourselves so that we don't have to be toxic, or we don't have to be me versus you, or let me make sure I look better than, Netta when I come on tonight, or maybe make sure I got this on because ain't nobody gonna outshine me. I think that we're here for a common cause to help people heal. So when we come together as healed women, we're not looking for anything for each other, but only to uplift and support each other. And I just appreciate the fact that when we come together, before we come on, we pray. Before we come on, we have good conversations. Before we come on, we set the tone to make sure that everybody is okay. And even behind the scenes, even though we work together, even behind the scenes, we checked on Regina to make sure that Regina was okay. That it's just not about what Regina could give to us or this. It was about the fact of the matter that as Black women in this circle, in this group of women, we care about each other. So it's not a toxic culture for us. It's more of a healing thing. So Shayla.
Yes. Theo said a few things that I agree with, and I was trying to think also, like, what are the toxic situations that I've been in, and I had a hard time trying to think of one. But now that you bring up the workspace, there was a company I worked for, and they did whatever they gave me what I asked for financially, because they had offered a certain amount, and I said, no, I want this. They brought me on. So the first day I walk in, there's this young lady at the front, and she comes over to my desk and she introduces herself, and she begins to tell me about everybody in the office, who to talk to, who to not talk to, who does this, who does that, blah, 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 blah. And she spoke some Spanish. So I guess in that sense, she thought we were the same. She touched my hair, because back then I had my hair straight. I was, relaxing my hair. So I guess she wanted to know if my hair was real. Wow. So there were certain things that she did where, lo and behold, she undermined me during one of our meetings. It was one of my very first meetings, getting to know everybody. I was running, making sure that, the AV was straight, that the lunch, all of that was straight. But she did something to undermine me in front of my boss in the meeting. So when that was over, the following day, I walked in. It was winter. I remember clearly. I was wearing my coat. I walked in. I sat at her desk, and I looked her straight in the eye, and I said, the next time you do that, no, I said, don't ever do that again. I am not someone that you can just roll over and think that it's going to be okay. And she started, but I said, but nothing. There's nothing to discuss. I have nothing else to say. Do not ever do that to me again. I got up, went to my desk. My phone rings. It's her trying to give me an excuse. I said, no. I said, I'm not going to discuss this with you again. Well, I guess she didn't like that, because after that, she was running into my boss's office, always telling something about me to try to, again, undermine me. Unfortunately, during that time, my mom was sick and we were dealing with her going back and forth to the hospital, to the doctors and all these different things. So I was dealing with a lot, which the bosses knew and they said it was okay. But then they brought to my attention that I was absent too many times and I was late too many times. But y'all know, because I told you what was going on. Well, this young lady tried to undermine me nevertheless, because she wasn't getting from me what I think she wanted, for me to be like allies with her and start talking about people in the office. Because one thing I learned, when someone comes to you and start to tell you about other people, that's the person you need to look out for.
Wow. Woo, we Shayla. Listen, that is so true in a work environment. It's that person.
Yeah.
And my mother always said, if they talk about people to you, they will talk about you to other people. Sheila,
Yep.
you want to jump in on this?
Yeah, and it's funny too. I'm sitting back here thinking, and I guess I should, count my blessings that I don't have any toxic situations or people to recount from my family or friends. Um, but it's interesting that this conversation right now is revolving around work, because I can think of working at a place where management was toxic,
Oh,
and made it very, very difficult for you, whether you were just a staff person or in management, to actually do your job, because there was no support. You were told what needed to be done, get it done by any means necessary, get it done when I wanted to get done, and that was it. And I had gotten to the point where I knew that it was time for me to leave, when I was so angry that I had to go into a conference room and cry.
oh my.
So
Wow.
that was what I said, when if a job and a person
Mhm.
gets you to that point, it's time to make moves.
Wow. Come on, Sheila. We're gonna go to Regina next. And Regina, I want to ask, let's shift it over a little bit to, do we have to deal with toxic family members because they're family? What's your take on that?
That was the one I was going to say. Because I've been in
I'm reading
three
your
toxic
mind.
relationships. So I'm sorry. What? Can you hear me?
Yep, go
You
ahead.
can hear me?
Mhm. Unmute
Okay, maybe.
now. There you go.
Okay. So my family was a toxic relationship. As I look back on it, as all you guys know, I've talked about. My dad was he was an alcoholic, but he was a functioning alcoholic along with a womanizer. So when I look back at that and look at, because I've done some work on myself, and I thought it was such a loving relationship. Well, yeah, a loving relationship, but all the things that went on with it, the things that he brought to the table. He did take care of us. He was a good provider as far as taking care of us. But the mental that we went through, and then you had to come out and live and see what your father did, and you're trying to do the right thing in relationships, which spilled over into my marriage, and that was toxic. And I also was in a very work, high environment, toxic relationship with management. So I've been in all three. So
Wow.
it was a lot.
Well, I like the way that you acknowledge that it was toxic with your dad, even though and a lot of times we have to realize, even though there are positive aspects to a person, that we
Mhm.
still have to recognize the toxic parts of them that we don't want to connect to or we don't want to emulate. Sometimes we think that dysfunction, that toxicity is normal, when it's not normal. It's just what we're learning, and a lot of stuff that we do is learned behavior. So let's
Mhm.
go around the room. Anybody else ever had a experience with your family where you had to pull back or actually had to speak to somebody about it?
Uh, wow. Hmm. This one is it's a little difficult to say on this forum, but I'll say it. As far as it being toxic, I'm not sure, but there was a family member that um, inappropriately uh, touched me.
Okay.
So, and I had no other relationship with that person, with that family member, and did my best to stay out of their way. Um, and this is when I was a preteen. This happened when I was about 12 or 13. So didn't really see them again and didn't really want to. And somebody said something to me, a wise woman said once to me that you can't control what other people do, but you can control your reaction to them.
Mm.
And so whatever other situation I would find myself in, like Sheila said, if it's messing with your peace, if it's messing with your well-being, how if you have to go somewhere and cry about it, or you're disturbed, your spirit is disturbed about it, then it's not a good situation, and remove yourself as best you can, especially when it's family. It's kind of hard to, and if they're around all the time, it's kind of hard to remove yourself per se, but how you react to them, I think, is what helped me. I just didn't give it credence, or didn't give it the energy that I would have before, if that makes sense.
Wow, that is so, so good. Remember, what we feed will grow, and what we
Right,
starve will die. And sometimes we just have to deal with people in the way of, I am not going to let you steal my joy
right,
because you're toxic, right? And what I hear Shayla saying is, I'm not going to engage with this toxic person like I'm a toxic person,
right,
because I ain't toxic. So if you want to be acting all crazy, one, you're going to stay away from me because you're inappropriate. And two, we're not gonna play these games where I'm gonna play the tit for tat with you. So,
right.
Theo, you wanted to say something? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought you unmuted yourself. So now let's talk a little bit about just how do you deal. Just give one tip. Each lady, I want to go around the room. Give one tip on what you would say to somebody if they're dealing with a toxic person, and everybody else, let's mute. So we'll start with you, Regina. Gina Howard. We'll start with you.
Um, I think one tip is to acknowledge that is happening. Sometimes we kind of deny it, or we don't want to acknowledge it because we may be nervous about the confrontation, or is it your fault that that person is being toxic towards you? So don't blame yourself if you find yourself in that situation, because the only way you can deal with it is to acknowledge that it's happening, because then you get the opportunity to look at how can I deal with it. If I can't fix this relationship with this person, what do I need to do to protect my emotional, spiritual, and mental well-being in this situation? What avenues can I take to address it?
I love that so much, Gina. Acknowledge that it is going on. If we don't acknowledge that something is happening to us, even if we don't acknowledge it to the other person, because sometimes people can't handle it, but if we don't acknowledge that a thing is going on with us, it's going to continue to happen. Because when we have awareness of something that's going on, we say, what am I going to do to, get out of this situation or manage this situation? Even if I can't talk to the person, I'm acknowledging that this is happening to me because I'm not crazy. And so many times, like you said, Gina, we don't acknowledge things, and we go on every day in a toxic work environment. I'm sorry, a toxic relationship with our boo or our babe. We acting like he ain't talking crazy to us, or down talking us, or secretly saying stuff to, make us insecure. So we don't acknowledge those things. And when we move on and we don't acknowledge them, they'll continue to happen. And our self-esteem will get lower and lower and lower until we think that's all that we deserve. So come on, Theo, what is one tip you would give people?
So I think in addition to acknowledging it, is one, you have to remove yourself from the situation. So you have to establish boundaries, right? You have to recognize that you don't have to deal with toxic behavior, right? And so you have to create this space that gives you peace. And part of it is that, like Gina said, acknowledging it, having a conversation about it. But I do believe you have to establish clear boundaries. And so as difficult as some people you may find it to be, is you have to remove yourself from some situations, or you have to establish how you're going to interact in those situations. But first of all, the one thing you have to make sure you're clear on is it's not you. Don't take on somebody else's stuff. All right. You have to acknowledge what part you play in it. And when you realize you don't play any part in it, walk away, remove yourself, establish a boundary. It's okay to move people from the front row of your life to the balcony. Everyone doesn't deserve a front seat in your life.
Theo is about to set all y'all on fire tonight. I could already tell because she about it tonight. Netta, let's go to you next.
Well, Theo hit about 5 of them. So the one that was at the top of my list is to remember that you don't own their behavior. It's what they're thinking, what they're feeling. I have both empathy and harmony high in my strengths, meaning I can feel the feelings of others, and peace is of utmost importance to me. So I had to find a balance between those two. I didn't own their stuff. So being able to release it to protect my own peace is very hard for there to be an argument party of one.
Oh, wait. Let's marinate on that for like 2 or 3 seconds.
Netta, say that again.
Please, one more. Wait. What? Say that for the people in the back.
I said it's hard to have an argument party of one.
Well,
so if you're not there participating, it's the end of it.
I always say this too, right? And I'm big on this when I'm coaching clients, or when I'm even dealing with myself to some degree. I always say, if you are in a toxic relationship, or you are engaging a toxic person, you are toxic, because healthy people leave the relationship and healthy people walk away. We don't stick around toxic people because we've done too much work to get the toxicity out of our system to allow somebody to bring us back to a place where we do not want to be. So we have to be very mindful of how we engage with toxic people, because it will show you your level of healing, right? Because I'm healed, I forgive everybody, and then somebody will say something to you to disturb your peace, or not agree with you, or say some toxic mess because they in a space, and you will engage in it. That gives you a gauge of where I'm at in my healing process, and maybe there's an area that I need to work on, even though I can control myself. Why did that jab me like that to where I almost popped off, right? Because I said years ago, I used to pop off, now I pray, right? But was it yesterday when I took Jermaine to the neurologist, the people in there were telling us that only one parent could go, and his dad was with me. And this is a hard situation for all of us. Jermaine is nonverbal on the spectrum. He had a seizure back in December. And now we were trying to decide on what our next steps would be, whether he would be on medication, what this looks like, what the EEG looked like. And I'm always dealing with this by myself. But his father actually took off work to go with me. And we walked, and this is so good right now because I didn't even think about this until we walked into a toxic work environment. Those people were toxic. Oh, it's policy. No, it's really not policy, because somebody can actually say, both parents are here. We understand the situation. So we're going to let you come in the back. And I was going to lose it. And I thank God in my life right now, because usually Jermaine's dad is the one who totally lose it. But I see the growth in him, because he was the one that said, we're not about to play these games with these people, Trey. This is what we going to do. This is how you go ahead in the back with Jermaine. I'm going to get with a manager, and I'll see you in the back. So again, I almost let those toxic people control me. So I had to look at myself. When I got home, I talked to Netta, and when I got home and later on got settled in, I said, why did you let that push you to that point? Because then I needed to be accountable for my feelings and how I was going to react. So this is so good. This is so good. So let's move over to Regina. And what would be a step or a tip that you would give to somebody about toxic people?
Like everyone else said, remove yourself. And Netta said what I was going to say, a party of one. you can't argue if it's only one person there. I was gonna say that. Remove yourself. I have learned, especially I was in a very toxic work environment, just like Sheila said, it was with management. And so I found myself being the savior, running around trying to protect everyone in the work environment or on my team, running in management's office, and this isn't right, and blah blah blah, going on and on and on. And I'm the only one. All the other employees are sitting back. So basically, mind your business.
Oh,
Work with what's working with you. If it gets too toxic, you leave the relationship. And so that my one thing would be that.
oh, thank you so much, Sheila.
Yeah, just a little combination of what everyone else has been saying. But I also thought about the fact that, you have to figure out why you are still engaging in that toxic relationship or that behavior. Because there are some people who are drawn to it, some people who actually thrive on it. So, acknowledging that you may be a part of that is one of the steps that you have to take to figure out, why does this keep happening? Why am I always in these situations? Am I playing a role in it? As if somebody had already said. And chances are, if you're still entertaining it, then yes, you do play a role in it.
The ladies is calling folks out tonight. Shayla?
Well, I'm going to say something a little bit different, only because I went through this. And I would say, how important is that relationship to you? If it's someone, because I always kind of give people the benefit of the doubt. So I would try to, maybe that person doesn't really realize that they're being toxic. So it depends on the relationship. If it's somebody that I care about, I let them know, have that conversation. Look, your behavior right now is X, Y, and Z. And after having that conversation, if the behavior continues, then you want to be toxic. Peace out.
Shayla said you want to be toxic. And I was going to ask that question, and I'm glad Shayla answered it. That is there a time to not engage a toxic person, but to confront them? Because some people, I'm not going to say most, but a lot of toxic people are bullies, right? And that's why the culture is there at work, because they've bullied so many people that people are almost kind of sort of on their team, because if it's Netta, like, oh well, you don't want to rumble with Netta because Netta don't play no games with nobody at this job, even though Netta's toxic. And I'm not saying that you, Netta, in particular, but I'm saying that if Netta's the one at the job and everybody like, oh, you don't want to mess with Netta, or you don't want, that's just a sign for me that, why is everybody afraid of Netta? Like, what is Netta sprinkling around this office that people are actually, kind of sort of running from her? So we know we don't have to deal with toxic family members. How do you confront, right? And listen, I believe that not all of us, but I'm going to say maybe 80% of people come from toxic families, right? I don't know no June Cleaver families, or I don't know no Cosby Show families. And I hate to use that because some people may be offended, but listen, I don't know many families that, come from that stock, right? Of that there's no toxicity. How do we begin to have these conversations in our family? Because people are like, oh, the drunk uncle come to the cookout, cuss everybody out, knock everything over, or the aunt that points out oh, well, she don't have no kids, or her job, or she didn't came here with this third man. How do we confront these people in our families? Because sometimes things do need to be talked about, because I don't want to remove myself, like, oh, I'm not going to the family reunion because so-and-so gonna be there. So how do we confront these different people? And I'll let anybody go who wants to touch on this right now.
Can I?
Sure, go ahead. And then Jean.
I'll start by saying that it's not easy, especially if you grow up in a culture where, things are not discussed or talked about. I can talk about them now because, as you said before, Trey, we've all done some level of work on ourselves. But I do know from my culture, it's things are not discussed. We don't have conversations about things. So it's very difficult to talk to somebody about their behavior or them being toxic or anything like that. So, and I think it's still something that's being worked on. I think, yeah, I could say in my family, it's still being worked on. There's a nucleus of us that, yeah, we can talk about things, and still certain subjects are not very easy to discuss. So for me, it would be a difficult conversation to have.
The
Yeah.
thing about it too is so many families, and I'm gonna say this to the families that's listening, because maybe y'all gonna fix this tonight. It's so many families that will talk about the toxic person behind their back, which is toxic. We just gonna talk about Lucy behind her back. Oh, did you see Lucy? And her kids was dirty, and her hair was whipped, but the kids wasn't taken care of. And we all talking about Lucy, but ain't nobody confronting the situation. So we more toxic than Lucy is. So let's go ahead, Gina. Gina, I know you want to come in on the family and how do we have these conversations.
I think, it depends on how long that toxic environment has been there. If you are or have experienced that as a child growing up, and then now you're an adult and you still are in it because it's maybe someone close in your family circle, like an uncle or an auntie or a cousin or someone. I think as you mature, and let's pray that everyone in your family isn't messy, so that you can have that person that you can go to and say, look, this is the situation. I need your advice on how to address it, or do we address it, right? Because if you're going to be in those circles, coming together for reunions, parties, and that sort of thing, and that person is there, and that person is consistently messy, someone has to say something. And if the mess happens with you, where you're uncomfortable, then at some point you do need to address it. The issue comes in where you're thinking about what type of relationship is it, and in the family dynamic, where do we stand, or where do they stand, right? Because some families have a hierarchy and all of that kind of stuff, but at the same time, you have to think about your emotional, your spiritual, and your physical well-being. And if you feel that being in this space with this person is a problem, then in love, you do need to address it, or address the person that allows that in their space but wants you to be there as well.
Ooh, address, if it's their house, we going to them like, hey, girl,
Right.
this your house. I'm gonna need you to go over there and talk to Lucy
Right.
about
You
all
know,
this.
Pookie always come with the extra, but you always invite Pookie when you know Pookie gonna act out.
Pookie gonna disturb
He
everybody.
gonna mess everybody up. Come talking trash to everybody, but you always say, y'all come on over. But Pookie coming. So like we gotta gird ourselves up and get prayed up before we can go, because we know Pookie gonna show out. Then you need to talk to Pookie, because you part of the problem. You like Pookie's messiness. That's why you keep inviting Pookie to the party. Just saying. I'ma stop, but just saying.
But can I say though, sometimes there's at least one person in the family that has that chutzpah and that guts to talk about, to tell that person, whoever's being toxic.
I'm just gonna use Pookie as an example. Just saying.
Pookie needs a different start time than everybody else.
Right. Right. Tell Pookie 2 hours later, after we done had our fun and stuff. Then let Pookie come. I done ate my food. We done left to play the game of cards. And so if Pookie cut up, I can go home and I don't feel bad about it. Okay? I'm just saying. All right, I'm gonna stop.
Ooh, wait a minute, my cheeks is hurting. You make it, but no, you speaking real talk that whoever's house it is, I like that. Because now we're gonna take this with us. That whoever house it is, this is the person maybe we should be addressing now. Like, so if Regina, if you invite me to your house and I know that there's somebody there that is going to disturb my peace and they do it all the time, not one time,
Right.
then I have the right to come to you and say, Gina, you know, Pookie's going to be acting up and I may not come. Right? I may not come. So you may reevaluate that and say, you know what? No, I want you to be there. So what I'm going to do is let him know if he can't, don't come here drunk already. Because sometimes people already come lit and we don't need all of that. I'm sorry. Did anybody else want to jump in?
I was going to say, you know, although like Regina said it's true, Gina said it's true, but funny is I think also sometimes, unfortunately, I think some families, right, the toxicity it just becomes second place, like it's just normal to them, right? So they don't even realize they're existing in toxicity, right? And so it just keeps going on and on and on and on because it's just become a normal part of their dysfunction.
I love this conversation so much because these really are the conversations that we don't have. We talk a lot about, oh, generational curses and blah, blah, this and that. It's really not a generational curse. It really is us allowing Pookie to act up and nobody having the guts to stand up and say, we as a family, because the one person that says something, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, because this has happened to me on several occasions, and my family may be watching, but the one person that has the guts to stand up and say, y'all do know that this is not normal. Y'all do know this is messy. Y'all do know that this should not be going on at every family function, is the person that usually gets cast out as the black sheep, or she thinks she better than somebody, or what about you back in the day when you was drinking Hennessy or when you was taking shots. And it's a time of, well, I'm not drinking Hennessy and I'm not taking shots anymore because I'm 52 years old now. And I don't want to come and I don't want to be disturbed by people arguing and fighting or somebody bringing up the past and everybody in here crying. That's not what I came for. Even though that's been our norm because we were brought up in it, doesn't mean it has to stay our norm. We can grow from this and say, when we come to our events, everybody's not going to get drunk, right? Is it really necessary? Do we really have to self-medicate to be around each other? Because that's a level of toxicity that we really need to discuss. If I got to be drunk to be around my beauty flies, I'm in the wrong circle of women. If I have to be drunk to function, I am beyond toxic if I don't love myself and I could come in a room and just be sober, because I've been that person, right? I've been toxic in my life. I've been the person that needed to have something in my system in order for me to feel comfortable with myself or comfortable around people. Or if something did go awry, I could say blame it on the alcohol, girl. I was tipsy or I was drunk. But now that I've done work on myself, I'm comfortable going around everybody sober. So when I get around people and we're learning now in our families that this is not normal, how does that feel for you guys? Have you ever felt like I've grown, I'm the black sheep now because some of this stuff toxic and ain't nobody talking about it?
I find myself not being invited, finding out about things, months later, because they're not comfortable around the mature person in the room who doesn't take part in the foolishness. So I end up being the one being left out. And I'm like, hey, I'm good with that. I didn't have to decline the offer.
Woo! I didn't have to decline the offer. Come on in, beauty flies. Anybody?
Wow. I'm still invited, right? I'm still invited, but I will tell you, I've probably always been the black sheep because I've always been the one that was more like a bookworm, right? So I was called brainiac, I was called bougie. Like I've always been the one that really I didn't drink, I didn't smoke, I didn't do a lot of stuff. So I think I've always been the black sheep, but I still I don't know, I still engage with my family. We still get together, but I think because I've always been viewed as the outsider, for lack of a better word, right? That, you know, they know who I am. Like, they know what I don't do. They know what I tolerate and don't tolerate. And it's all good. And I don't judge them and they don't judge me. And if I don't like something, I tell them, and it's all good, because I tend to speak my mind. So
I love that, Theo. I've always been the black sheep because they know what I don't do and they know what I do. I love this conversation. We have 15 minutes left. Did anybody else want to jump in? Regina, did you want
Yeah,
to say something?
yeah, I would like to jump in. I grew in maturity. You know, I used to be the one that, you know, I was never the one that caused all the problems, but fun, having drinking, you know, all that. I matured that I might have a glass of wine or whatever, but I remove myself if it gets too much while trying to talk to the person that is happening to. Um, for instance, my cousins. When we were growing up, we all did these things, but then we grow to a certain point and we don't do those things anymore. So when I see them doing the things that we used to do when we were kids, I'm like, I mean, are we still? I've had conversations, especially with my male cousins, and I've been called, "Oh, you're the bougie one. You think you're this, you're that." But I have that conversation, whether you listen, but at least I had the conversation with them, whether you take it or not. But I'm trying to pour into you and tell you we're better than this. We're older now. Where is the growth? And then if you don't want to listen anymore, then as Sheila say, I'm out. Peace out. But I've said my part.
Wow, I love it. You're better than this. Like, okay. This is great to have this conversation of what does happen when you're no longer toxic. Because I believe that each and every one of us has been to some level of toxicity in our life, whether it was in a relationship, whether it was in our marriage, whether it was with our mother, whether it's with our children. And people, it's hard for people who have not grown to accept your growth. It frightens them, it scares them, it makes them feel some kind of way when you're in your mind like, don't judge me because I changed and I won't judge you because you haven't. I'm good over here. If you still want to throw back shots at 50, 45 and up, if you still want to wreck your liver, that's your business. But my liver tells me when I smell tequila or when I smell cognac, my liver tightens up. It ain't me. My liver like, no, ma'am. We got 50 more years to go. Like, we not, I'm gonna rock hard. No, we not doing that. So we have our final thoughts coming up. Go ahead. Come on, Theo.
So we have a question
Okay.
on Facebook, and someone is asking, how do you re-enter the fold after the hiatus?
Wow, you want to take that for Theo, or you want us to go around the room?
Let's go around the room. Like, if anyone has an answer for it, like, how do you re-enter after? Because I haven't taken a hiatus from my family, like, but so someone.
I'll take that.
Okay, come on, Gina.
Don't make it a big deal. See, we overthink it. It's not like you enter in a ball or a gala, right? Or gala. It's your family. Everybody has the right to say sometimes you're just dealing with stuff and you needed a reprieve. You're good. You're back. Hey, how you doing? I think if we overthink coming back in, you've grown, you've matured, you're ready to deal, adjust, to be with your loved ones. You don't need an explanation for that. The only thing you need to do is to be present, to be engaging, to be loving, and to be there. And once you bring that energy, that positivity, everything else doesn't matter.
And so the one thing I would add to that is, as you re-enter with your boundaries established, right? What you're going to put up with, what you're not going to put up with. When it's time for you to say deuces, I'm out, right? Like, so don't just re-enter and plan to continue to experience what you experienced before, because then you're going to have to take another hiatus, right? But hopefully, while you were on the hiatus, you were really coming up with a plan for how you can re-enter with established boundaries.
Yeah. I will also say too, know what your triggers are so that when you are in these environments with your family and friends, that is different for you. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, right? So if you are re-entering from, a toxic space and you went and did work on yourself, sometimes you just got to know when to leave the party, right? We know that cousin that then took 2 extra shots, or we know that person that walked in the room with the negative energy, or we know the clique over in the corner that's over there talking about everybody. When you start to feel an energy shift inside of you, and you know how that makes you feel and what that's going to bring to you internally, we just got to know when it's exit stage left. Because when we're young, we don't know at a level of maturity. We just stay for the whole party till the police come and everybody fighting and somebody then threw something, everybody yelling and screaming and talking. We know now, I know now, wherever I'm at, I'm very aware of the exits. I'm very aware of what everybody's drinking. And this is just not my family. I'm talking about when I go out to an event. I'm talking about when I'm around friends. I'm very aware of what is going on in my environment. So I know, guess what? It's getting noisy over there. I'm starting to feel some kind of way. And I think it's just time for me to leave. So just be aware when you are re-entering into your family environments that I know what triggers me, and it's okay for me to leave early instead of at the end. Anybody else want to come in on that?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Know when to go. It's okay if you can't stay. Before you leave, before you get ready to go to that place, right? Know what your limits are. As Thea was saying, know your boundaries, have them set. All right. And when it's time to go, when that energy is shifted, as Trey said, and it's time for you to go, leave. Don't feel bad about it. But at the same time, if at some point somebody asks you, though, while you don't owe anyone an explanation, be prepared to tell them, because that's how you stop covering things up. That's how you break open those walls of silence, those secrets, or those, that uncle, that's just the way Uncle Pookie is. He's always been that way. We just gonna leave him be. It's got to start somewhere. And if you once you get to the point where you tell somebody that this is why, and this is for me, for no one else but for me, either they're going to accept it or they're not, and there's not much that you can do about it. But you still have to be comfortable and at peace with yourself and what in your decision. And again, it may get to the point where once you're able to do that and release that information, you can be around those same people and not let it affect you at all, but still know before you go.
Know before you go. That's a whole t-shirt right there. Know before you go. And you know what, too? You know what's okay, too, for everybody that's listening? And if you're just tuned in, you're tuned into the Woman to Woman show. We're here every Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube and on Facebook in the Woman to Woman Facebook group. Please join us over in the Woman to Woman Facebook group on Facebook, because we want to engage with you over there. We want to know what topics you want us to talk about. We want to know how we can help and serve you. So we're here every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So let's just go around with our final thoughts for the evening. I won't set up a question or anything. I just want to know what your final thought is on toxicity and what you want people to go away from this conversation with. And whoever wants to go first, just unmute yourself.
Hi. So I would say that don't change who you are. Don't try to conform to situation, places, and people. If you find yourself on the outside because you're not going to subscribe to toxic situation, people, places, and things. Be comfortable with who you are, and it's okay if you're not invited to everything. There's a reason, and you're being protected. So just do not conform.
Next.
I'll go. I wanted to share a definition. We talk about toxic, and some people may be in situations that are just that, toxic, and not know it. not to stir the pot, but just to define what toxic really is in terms of relationship. It says any relationship between people who don't support each other, where there's conflict, or one seeks to undermine the other, where there's competition, where there's disrespect, and a lack of cohesiveness, not operating as a united whole. So just being aware that maybe a situation is toxic and you hadn't defined it as that. I just wanted to clarify what a toxic relationship really is.
Wait a minute, Theo. Did she put her glasses on and
Yes, she
break that
did.
down to the molecule of the decimal
She was like,
of? Let me tell y'all
let
something.
me tell
But I'm
y'all
glad she
something.
did that.
I'm sorry. I love my beauty flies because they come. My co-hosts, they don't come to play. They like, wait a minute, let me top this off with the cherry on top, just in case you don't know, because somebody, Netta, might not know they're in a toxic situation right now because they don't know the definition of toxicity. They think because a man is not knocking them upside their head or somebody ain't yelling and screaming and cursing at them, they don't know that their girlfriend is toxic. But now that they got that definition, they gonna go back tonight and like, let me go back and listen to the Woman to Woman show because that's how Lisa be acting sometimes. Let me go. Maybe we need to have a conversation. So I'm gonna go over to Regina Booker. What's your final thoughts?
Well, Netta, she just dropped the mic, so I was going to say stand your grounds. Stand your grounds and remove yourself if need be. Be true to yourself. You always don't know, as Netta, you don't know sometimes if you are in a toxic relationship, but if it's something that's disturbing your peace and it's getting to your inner spirit, just remove yourself.
Remove yourself. Let's take it around to Sheila.
Yeah. Real simple. If it doesn't add to your life, if it doesn't enrich your being, get away from it. Walk away. Stay healthy for yourself. But if it's subtracting or if it's taking you to that place where you thought you had gone past and you're back there again, get away from it.
Come on, Gina. I see you over there nodding. Come on up in here.
Listen, don't blame yourself for the toxic environment. Sometimes we want to try to figure out if I did something, if I added to it, was it something I did or didn't do? When oftentimes it has nothing to do with you. Is that person being who they are? What you have to be clear on is where you stand, right? And if you need help getting out of a toxic situation, depending on what it is, if it's work related, there's protocols for that. If it's family or relational, there's a different set of things you may need to do. But don't take the ownership, like I think Netta or Theo said. It's not your place to take on someone else's bad behavior and make that your responsibility. It's not. So if you own anything, own what you need to do to protect your well being. Not that you have to own someone else's bad behavior.
Come on, Theo.
So I'm gonna honestly say that everyone has probably touched on what I would have said. So here's what I'm gonna end with. To everyone that's listening, don't think that we're here thinking that we're grand, we're better than anybody else. We're able to have these conversations openly and truthfully because we all have done the work. We either have been through therapy or are still in therapy, have seen coaches, work with coaches, and still work with coaches. But we all have done and are still doing the work, right, to figure out how we can make ourselves whole and how we can heal. Because when you heal, you do better, right? And so I'm just going to say, like, I agree with everything that everyone before me said, but I think we also have to recognize when we have to get help from somebody else, to help us deal with whatever situation we're dealing with if we're not sure how to handle it.
I love that so much. And I'm going to actually piggyback off of what Theo said and say that, we're not judging. We used to be you. We've been in toxic situations. We've been in toxic environments, but we have done the work so that we know. I'm clear on this. If you are in a toxic relationship, you are toxic because it takes two people to be toxic it takes two people to be in a toxic relationship because healthy people leave. It takes two people to be in a toxic situation because healthy people don't engage in toxicity. So I'm going to leave you with that. If you engage in toxic behavior, you're toxic. If you are in a toxic relationship, you're toxic and you don't have to be. And again, we are not judging. We all used to be you. We've all gone through some things, but we decided to grow. We decided to change, and we decided to get help. Key word that Theo said. We decided to get help and to take an internal look at ourselves to make sure that we're not giving off toxicity and that we would not engage in those toxic things. So if you just tuned in, you're tuned into the Woman to Woman show. We are here every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you for tuning in. We don't take that lightly. It's a privilege to be in your life. Follow us on Instagram at W2W Show, at W2W Show. Please subscribe to the New You Nation Network YouTube channel. And don't forget to share. Sharing is caring. Again, here on the Woman to Woman show, we believe truth plus transparency equals healing. And remember, you are only as sick as your secrets. It's healing time. We'll see you next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Woman to Woman show.
Sister, I need to walk with me on this journey. Yes, hold me accountable, 'cause sometimes I need to know the truth. Sister, me on this journey. Yes, hold me accountable.